Welcome back to page 3 of the final review. These next couple questions deal with this next one is midpoint and then the equation of a line. So they're asking me to find the midpoint of this segment, and I could probably count and figure out exactly where it is, but I'm going to use the midpoint formula, and the midpoint formula is x plus x1 divided by 2. So I'm averaging the x values, and the y plus y1 divided by 2, I'm averaging the y values. And I'm putting these in parentheses, and I put a comma between them because this is asking for a midpoint, and a point is always an x and a y. So that's what we're talking about. We're finding the middle point of the line in the x and the y. So we have the segment A, which is negative 4 and 4, and let's fix that. Negative 4 and 4. That time around. One more try. 4. There we go. And B is 6 and negative 5. Alright, so those are my x and y's. So I'm going to add my two x's together. So I'm going to take 6 plus negative 4 and divide it by 2. And I'm going to do the same with the y's. I'm going to say 4 plus negative 5 and divide it by 2. Well, 6 minus 4, 6 plus negative 4 is 2, so I get 2 over 2. And over here, I get 4 plus negative 5 is negative 1 over 2. And if I just clean up the 2 over 2, I will get my final answer for my midpoint, that I'm 1 over and down a half. So if I go over 1 and down a half, that point right there should be the middle of the line. That's what we're looking for that line. All right. Next one is the fact that we are trying to write an equation of a line that goes through the given point and is parallel to the given point. So when we're talking parallel, slope is equal to slope. The slope of the parallel line, slope 1, will equal slope 2. And I know they're not asking parallel, but you could get perpendicular. And that's the weird one. Perpendicular is when slope 1 times slope 2 will equal negative 1. Or if you have slope 1 and you're trying to find slope 2, it'd be negative 1 divided by slope 1 will give you the slope 2 that you're trying to find if you're looking for perpendicular. But in this case, we're looking for parallel, so we just need to find the slope of this line. And if I do a little counting, just pick some random places where it crosses. It looks like this looks like a good spot. If I go up 3 over 2, I run into another spot. Let's check and make sure that works. If I go up 3 and over 2, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that slope. So the slope of that line is up 3 over 2. So we're just going to steal this slope for parallel. If it was perpendicular, this slope would have been a negative 2/3 would have been the slope we would use. But since we're doing parallel, we're not going to worry about that too much. Parallel, and so when we write an equation of a line, the equation of a line, we need three things. We need an x, a y, and a slope. In this case, we have a slope of 3/2. They also gave us an x and y right over here, and that point would be x is 2 and y is 4. So I can write an equation of a line. I'm going to use point slope as my equation of a line. I like it better than, since I have a point and a slope, I like using this equation. And so that's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where the x1 and y1 are these guys up here, and the m is my slope. So if I do this, if I substitute in the stuff I know, I get y minus 4 equals 3 over 2 x minus 2, just substituting those in. Now, if you don't like, this is an okay equation. If you gave that to me on the test, I would be perfectly happy with that. But if you don't like that equation of line and you want to go to slope-intercept form, or maybe you did slope-intercept form originally, so to check and make sure that we get the same answer that you may have gotten, I'm going to first distribute my 3/2 to my x and my negative 2. So I get 3/2 x, and when I take 3/2 times negative 2, basically I have negative 2 times 3 over 2, and I'm put the negative 2 over 1, so I would get negative 6 over 2, which I could reduce down to negative 3. So my equation looks like that. Now the only thing left for me to do is to move this 4 across the equal sign to get it into slope-intercept form. And so if I did that, my final answer would be y equals 3/2 x plus 1. And that was a 4 originally there. So if it was perpendicular, the only thing that I would do differently is instead of substituting in the slope of 3/2, my slope 2 would have been -2/3, and I would have used that slope and plugged them in, used the same point and used that slope, and I would have gotten the equation of my line perpendicular, okay? Because that could be a question as well. So this concludes page 3.